Hey guys, first off, just apologising for that noise in the background if you can hear it. I hope it doesn't drown me out too much. Might just have to redo this if it does. But anyway, in my past two videos I mentioned super ceramics, which got a lot of interest because some people didn't really know they existed, and other people were interested because they knew something changed but they weren't entirely sure what happened or what they should do to deal with it. So this is a video purely to deal with super ceramics and what's kind of good against them. In general, if you've got a good enough defense, you don't really need to think about it too much. This is more to keep in mind for daily challenges, I guess, which go past 81, because sometimes you might not have your usual things and you'll suddenly just hit a brick wall at round 81 and have no idea what to do. So anyway, if you missed those two videos, super ceramics are a kind of lag reduction measure that happens in a stage of free play in balloons, and this is the round 81 stage where ramping kicks in. So no matter what difficulty you're on, round 81 will start ramping, and ramping is increased movement speed and health of Moabs every round. But in addition to this, from round 81 onwards, all ceramics are swapped to super ceramics, and in general all balloons stop spawning extra children, which is the main change here. So super ceramics, regular ceramics have 10 health, super ceramics have 60 health. That's the main change. They're 6 times as powerful, but then the children inside them only spawn 1 children instead of splitting off into multiple children. You can check out my last video if you want to go into more detail than that, but that's pretty much it. So anyway, this makes a sort of dramatic shift in what works, because you need a lot more damage than you did before round 81, and Pierce becomes less useful because you're not getting giant clusters of children anymore, you're just getting individual superpowered children. And every time I talk about children in this game, it sounds really weird, but that's what they are, so hey, whatever. Anyway, so let's just get started looking through. I have Benjamin selected, so we may as well look at him. First off, Balloon Trojan makes something spawn no children, which is useful for ceramics on earlier stages, but it's actually pretty useless against 81 plus ceramics, because usually ceramics have hundreds of children because they split off into multiple copies of everything. A 81 plus ceramic only has about 8 children, so you're only saving yourself 8 damage, which is nothing. So don't worry. Benjamin is still good in free play for removing the actual ceramic children from mobs though. So your mobs will drop 4 super ceramic children, which is 4 times 60 instead of 4 times 10. So if Trojan targets a Moab, that is good. If it targets a ceramic, not so good. The only other hero worth mentioning specifically for super ceramics is maybe Striker Jones, because his concussive shell can be spammed quite rapidly once you reach level 20, especially if you've got the monkey knowledge, which gives it extra cooldown. And I don't think any other heroes are specifically good against these, off the top of my head. Don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, so you'll see usual things like Juggernaut, which say they excel at crushing ceramic balloons, no longer do, because this used to take 3 shots to remove 9 health from a ceramic, and then they only had 1 left. Now that they have 60 health, that's your Juggernaut is not going to get that many shots in. It's practically worthless. Honestly, I would sell all these at this point, unless it's a specific challenge we need them. But yeah, your Plasma Fan Club is kind of good against them, but that's not too reliable, so we won't really bring that up so much. Crossbow Master, it's good against them because it just does a lot of damage, but it's also inconsistent. It has long range though, so the long range kind of makes up for the inconsistency. It's got a lot of pierce, but this pierce becomes a bit irrelevant, so yeah. What we're actually looking for is things like the Glaive Lord, actually, which in fact used to be terrible, absolutely worthless after round 81. Now it's pretty decent, until they start getting too fast for it. As long as you place it in a good location though, it can kind of shred them down. Because it's got really good DPS in the single area, and that's what really matters. You don't need Pierce anymore because there's less children. You just need high damage. Nothing else in the boomerang is really that great in them though. So the bomb shooter, your balloon impact is actually really good, and this is because it stuns them and it's got high Pierce. So when you're looking at the round 81 change, you actually find Pierce becomes a lot more effective than it used to be, because like before, when you had hundreds of children, your balloon impact wouldn't do that much. It would slow them a bit, but you'd miss a lot. Now that you're only getting a couple children, like one mob will only ever have 4 children inside it. Like no matter how much you pop down those 4 ceramics that come out of the mob, you'll only ever have 4 balloons from that mob because they don't duplicate anymore. Even regen balloons don't duplicate anymore once you get to 81. So yeah, much less Pierce is required to hit everything. So this AoE stun is actually quite useful, and balloon crush as well is actually very useful. Your cluster bombs, they're not so great anymore. They used to be great at taking out children, but they just lack the damage to keep up with super ceramics. Although if you stun them the top path, you have a lot more time for the third path to deal with them, so that can work. Your Ring of Fire is not that great, but the Inferno Ring might be kind of good. I would never use it for that myself, though. It could be mistaken. I don't really use the Inferno Ring too much, though. Your attack zone. So this is kind of good if you buff it. If you got like an embrittlement ice tower next to it, or you've got a cripple sniper. Cripple sniper's not as good because it can only do 1 target at a time, and that doesn't work on ceramics even, so why am I even mentioning that? But yeah, you've got an Alchemist next to it, stuff like that. It can kind of deal with them to a degree, especially if you got it in a really good spot, like close to the track in a corner. But it does start to fall off. It's actually way better before round 81. Your Maelstrom is unreliable, so wouldn't focus on that, though it can somewhat work. Icicle Impale is great because even though the damage bonus is only really for Moabs, it still freezes them. So it's very reliable. Icicle Impale is one of the best towers in the game. If you don't use it, just make the swap. It's not my favorite tower, but in terms of actual practice, this is probably the tower that I use the most because it is so versatile. It slows Moabs, it does high damage to Moabs, and it slows ceramics, so yeah. Your Super Brittle, it kind of helps. It can't actually pop them itself, but it can make a lot of other towers work. Like I mentioned, the attack zone, because it only needs to hit them, and then they take +4 damage. And when you got a super fast, super high projectile count tower like the attack zone, that's really important because you're getting 5 times damage basically, and it's already got good damage. The only problem is you have to actually hit them, and they start to get kind of fast in free play. So this is only worth considering like pre-100. If you're going deeper into free play, it starts to really be bad. Your Arctic Wind here. This is edge casey, but slowing them can help. Worth mentioning. You probably won't really end up doing this too much. Depends on the challenge. So your balloon solver here, this is actually still somewhat good for a while, as long as you have enough time, because the super ceramics, like it can still take them out if you get like the longer duration or something, but it takes longer still. It takes longer to pop them. So you don't want your other towers to be distracted. It's not a great option, but it can do the trick somewhat. Nothing else on glue is really amazing, but if you have a glue hose, obviously it's a stall. Stalling becomes really effective on these because they have so much health, so slowing them is helpful. Same as the balloon crush and the Arctic Wind and all that. Yeah, it's worth mentioning, but you're probably not going to want to rely on it too much. So the deadly precision here is pretty crap. It's sad. It used to one-shot ceramics. Now it takes like 4 shots or something. It's just not good. unfortunate. Sniper really loses all power against Super Ceramics. It's pretty terrible after round 81. Yeah, your ballistic missile here used to be good against ceramics, not so much now. Takes too many shots to take them out, although it does have infinite range, so if you have a lot of them, that's worth considering. A lot of them with infinite range, that's pretty good. Set to whatever, probably set to first, because otherwise they'll target the Moabs, but it's obviously not a great thing. Your bottom path sub, it just is so powerful that it's still good, but it does drop in effectiveness because it is kind of more of a pierce orientated upgrade. These airburst darts have a lot of pierce, which is fantastic. They have enough damage in the triple guns that they can kind of keep up past 81, but they do drop in power, so that sucks. Destroyer is similar to the sub, I guess. It excels in high pierce, in like a high pierce situation. It's great. But the top path here, the Destroyer, the aircraft carrier, the carrier flagship, they're still really good, even though they drop in effectiveness. You will notice them get weaker at round 81, but they definitely can still do the job, especially if you have an Alchemist or something like Super Brittle again and Cripple Moab. Cripple Moab, not good on Super Ceramics, is good on Moabs. But mainly the Super Brittle, yes, that will make them very good. Gwen will make them really good, Alchemist will make them really good. So yeah, they drop in effectiveness, but still good. So Monkey Ace, ground 0, actually very good here, because ceramics can't handle it. They're gone. No matter how strong a ceramic is, it will be one shot by ground 0. So honestly, you could just stall all the ceramics, have a bunch of Arctic Winds, glue hoses, balloon crushers, just stall them up and then boom, drop ground 0, they're all gone. One viable option. But yeah, you don't really want to focus too much on needing abilities to survive. Very situational here. Spectre can kind of still deal with them for a while, but Spectre loses a lot of value again at round 81 because it's a very pierce-orientated upgrade. It attacks fast enough that it can kind of still do somewhat of a job against them. But Spectre will only really work great if you are stalling or stunning all your ceramics, because the targeting on it is really not reliable. It will miss them. It's not fantastic. ODS, it's too missy. Again, it can kind of do the damage. It might be good if you stall, but not good. Not good overall. Your downdraft, it's another stall. It's very good. And it's very, very good, again, because it benefits as well, similar to Balloon Crush, from there being less pierce required to push everything back. So downdraft is another one that actually gets more powerful at round 81. But on that same note, it also starts getting weaker each round because the pursuit starts to not keep up with the increased speeds as well as it used to. So yeah, that's worrying. Comanche Commander is just straight up OP right now. So it can still, if you have one, you're fine, don't worry about it. It does lose effectiveness against them because, again, it's another one that's quite highly pierce orientated, but it's so powerful it doesn't matter. Your Wizard Monkey here, so Archmage has huge bonuses to ceramics and Moabs. And the problem is it can't really aim that well, and the homing is a lot weaker than Ninja's homing. So yeah, you're very likely going to miss. This one will do good against Super Ceramics, but you will want to be kind of stalling them, like an Icicle Impale or something as well. An Icicle Impale combined with this guy, that's going to do pretty nicely. It's not like a dynamic duo, not perfect, but they do work well together. Prince of Darkness here, it has enough damage but it's super unreliable. The Moabs that spawn here will basically one-shot ceramics. They have like 100 damage or something. So yeah, they'll take them out. It's just they have to spawn in the right location, and they have to last for long enough because they have a duration as well. So it comes down to placement. It really comes down to placement, and they'll get eaten up by thick rushes of balloons. So might be something there, not something you really want to focus on again. Sun Avatar is great. So you make a 301 Sun Avatar for the knockback, or 2 if you need camo detection. And it'd be preferable to have it under a village, but if you can't have a village nearby for some reason, that's a worthwhile upgrade. So the Sun Avatar, it has high PS, it has high damage, it has a high attack rate, it shoots a lot of projectiles, so it will stall a lot. And like similar to the other stall towers, stalling the super ceramics is great, but this will also damage them a lot, so that is good. Your Sun Temple, your True Sun God, these will just insta-gib all of them. If you can afford to get one of these bad boys down, you're set. Don't worry about anything else, because this just melts them. It is the perfect tool for melting them. Your bottom path here is also good, but it's actually not what you want to be using on them, because it does high damage to Moabs, but it doesn't have increased damage to ceramics. So even though you will notice it doing well against them, this is just because of the knockback and the extra projectiles. So the double projectile and Dark Champion here, along with it having a really high attack rate and a decent amount of PS, it will deal well against them, but you really want it to be focused on the Moabs and something else dealing with the ceramics. I mentioned Ground Zero, so I may as well mention Tech Terror and Anti-Balloon will also instantly destroy any super ceramics in radius, regardless of how strong they are. It's just, yep. It's an ability, it's a situational ability of a small radius, so don't rely on it too much, but it will massacre them. So Ninja Monkey is surprisingly good here. Obviously, your Grandmaster here has high damage, but if you're looking at your Balloon Jitsu and your Grandmaster, most people go Seeking Shuriken for early game, but if you're using this around 81 plus, your distraction is incredible. Like, it's so good. I can't stress how good this is. It is way better than Seeking Shuriken. The only reason you really want Seeking Shuriken is when you're trying to be extremely frugal, or, for example, if you're on like Ouch and you really need the shurikens to hit one path and then curve to a different path. But aside from that sort of thing, distraction is way more powerful, especially when you got multiple projectiles, because if you're throwing like 5 or 8 projectiles, or like 6 and 9 if you got the monkey knowledge, and on top of that they pierce a lot, and on top of that if you had an alchemist they pierce even more, and on top of that they're also distracting. I mean, with your attack rate you're basically guaranteed to just fling any ceramic straight back to the entrance, and that's great. Obviously Balloon Sabotage is also helpful, halves their speed. Another stall, that's helpful. But one you might not have thought of as well is the Flash Bomb, especially when you have Shinobi Tactics around it, which I love doing. A Flash Bomb with max stacks of 20 Shinobi Tactics around it, and then the Ninja Discipline for the pretty much doubled attack speed here. It throws out those Flash Bombs incredibly fast, and it will stun lock all ceramics around it. And same with Balloon Crush, it actually gets more powerful at 81 because less PS is required to hit all of them. So it's always been good, but once you hit round 81, it actually gets better, because its primary purpose of stunning balloons, like non-Moab balloons, becomes a lot easier. And it doesn't damage them much at all. It's actually super weak, and you'll notice the end of your round, you're just sitting there stunning these ceramics over and over for like a good couple seconds before they finally pop. But that's the main thing. Those good couple seconds it takes to pop them, you would have lost otherwise. So it's a couple extra seconds compared to like losing or winning. And also, if you just have something which is high powered nearby them, then you won't have to worry about that. Flash bomb, it's very, very positive in my opinion. That's one that I love. Sorry, Alchemist. Yeah, it's not so good. Your Balloon Master Alchemist is worth mentioning because obviously it instantly converts them down to a single health red balloon, and it has it works on you mainly want it for doing this to Moabs, but it actually has a lot more effectiveness against ceramics, so that's worth mentioning. It has really high pierce, but this pierce is reduced depending on the target it hits. So like, I think it can only hit like 1, maybe 2 Zombies off the top of my head. I don't actually use it too much, but I know it can do this. But it will actually hit a lot more BFBs. It'll hit way more Moabs, and it'll hit considerably more ceramics. So this is the only thing on Alchemist really worth thinking about there. Although if you do Total Transformation, you can do your crazy Plasma Fan Club Total Transformation thing, which is great as well. Okay, Druid of the Storm, fantastic, another stall. Same thing as the other couple stalls, it becomes way more effective because less pierce is required to hit everything. So this is one that gets better at 81. Superstorm, obviously, that will wreck things even more as well, but it's super expensive. It is the super expensive Superstorm. Yeah. Druid of the Jungle, this is a fantastic one. We'll one-shot them. Same as Ground Zero. This is on like the same level as Ground Zero. Unfortunately, it can only hit one at a time. Does not do anything to Moabs, but it's super cheap, only 950. Couple extra, a little bit more to get the previous upgrades, obviously, but like $1,500, and you get to one-shot a ceramic. It doesn't fire too quickly, but if you're stalling them, then that's great. You'll just keep on annihilating them one by one. This pairs especially well with stuff like flash bombs, where you just stun locking them. This guy can just pick them off one by one. Avatar of Wrath. Obviously, this is good. I mean, straight up, Avatar of Wrath is it feels OP when you're using it, but it's somewhat hard to utilize. I mean, in a way, I think it's balanced OP, but it is very powerful. And the more stuff that's on screen, the more damage it deals. So obviously that increased damage is fantastic in this situation. And yeah, good as that. This is definitely a tower worth getting, especially if you max out its attack speed with some pop lust nearby. And honestly, if you're going to do a pop lust strategy, then you want to have like a Druid of the Storm Ball Lightning next to there as well. So you're stalling them as well as doing high damage. You'll be fine. Banana Farm. Yeah, what is there to say about that? Spike Factory. So Permaspike will kind of hurt them. Yeah. It takes a while to build up, but hey, yeah. Permaspike's still good, guys. Everything else, Mo Shredder is obviously bad. You do not want this to be used up on your ceramics because it doesn't deal any bonus damage to them. They'll just eat it. Your Spike Balls do extra damage to ceramic, but same as Juggernaut, they kind of fall off at 81, and they were never great in the first place. This is kind of not a great upgrade. Supermines, it will annihilate them, but it's so expensive, right? You mainly want to be using this for Moab popping power if you do use it, but even then, it's more of a deep free play thing. It's so expensive, you cannot afford this by round 100 in chimps, even if you had infinite lives and did not spend money on anything else. Oh, no, you probably would afford it just on round 100 or something. But yeah, I think you make roughly 176,000 from one game from 1 to 100. So although I'm on normal, so yeah, it'd be more expensive on hard. You would not be able to afford it. If you're on medium, you might be able to. And Monkey Village. There's nothing here, of course. Your primary expertise, it does good damage, great damage, high range, but it's really awkward. Its bounce is really awkward basically, so it'll kind of put the hurt on them a bit, but it does drop off. It's more fun to use before 81. And that's all. I'll just do, I guess, a bit of a demonstration now. Put down, for example, this is our Deadly Precision, which can one-shot ceramics. As you can see, they're all being popped in one shot. Now if I set this round to like 81, center ceramic, 2, 3, 4 shots to pop. Yeah, that's what I thought. And worth noting there, as you can see, every time I hit the ceramic, it slows down. So if you have like, oh, okay, I forgot, I can't do that. So if you have Bouncing Bullet, you can actually kind of stall a group of ceramics. But again, I just straight up wouldn't recommend the sniper. Then we swap to our lovely Druid of the Jungle. One shot. And one shot. 121 pops. Very easy. I won't go through and demonstrate all of those things, but let's just quickly double check the heroes, make sure I didn't miss anything. So yeah, Gwen obviously helps because of increased damage. Strikers, okay, I forgot Urban. I'm an idiot. So Wall of Trees will obviously one-shot the ceramics. It's like Spike Factory, Last Line of Defense. That's something worth mentioning. Captain Churchill will do like a lot of extra damage to them, so he's pretty good too. Just, yeah, really depends. Quincy is not that great against them. Gwen, it is helpful for buffing other towers, but she's not great herself. So really, if you're looking straight up for a hero to help you with these, Striker, Urban, or Churchill are your best choices there. Anyway, I hope this was interesting. Hope it was somewhat helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.